Hello, you wonderful Excel users. I'm going to talk about a problem that I had encountered with someone's spreadsheet and how we resolved it, and the reason the spreadsheet didn't work in the first place. So this is just a replication of the data, and if you look, we've got the headings here, different types of plant, so the plant number, the type of bit of equipment it was, and the model number. Now what they've done is then going across the columns was every single date in the calendar. So you can see here, I've based this one on January, this example, but it would have gone across for 365. So you can imagine this spreadsheet is already getting quite long. And then when there was a problem with part of the equipment, it was made yellow, and when it was fixed, it was made green. And this was, for them, a great way for logging faults without really, sorry, the cat's decided to come in. The cat likes a bit of Excel. Say hello, Molly. And it's a great way of logging faults from the point of view of data entry, but apart from the fact the spreadsheet becomes huge, can you imagine a whole year's of data like this? But also you can't see any patterns. So, maybe you think there's a problem with a bit of kit, maybe it's been repaired a lot of times. It's very difficult to see those patterns. It's also very difficult to miss things because you might have put something in and forgotten to fix it. So what I did is we looked at the data and we came up with a different way of inputting it. Now let me just show you what we came up with, because Excel likes to work down. So for instance, if we had the headings plant number, type and model, and then instead of having the dates across the top, we just had a column for date. And then we have a column for issue. And we're going to have another column for date fixed. And I might, we'll see how this goes, but I'd actually put another fixed column in where I could have a yes or no. So that would just allow me to see which has been fixed, which hasn't. So this is how I want my data to end up. Is, and then they can basically list it. And then what we did with a combination of slicers, Xlookup, and Power Query, we got to that point. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to click in the data at the top, and as you can see, the data is a table. Here we go. Table design has come up, so I know it's a table, and I also know it's a table because I made it a table. And if you haven't made it a table and you want to use Power Query, make your data a table by going to Format as Table. But that has been done. So we are going to go to the Data tab. And in the Data tab, we are going to choose, before you do that, make sure your cursor is on the data that you're looking at. And data, and then from table range. So let's just try that. So click on the data tab, from table range, and this is going to take us straight into Power Query. Okay, if you've never seen this before, we do a course on it, and it's a really good way of sorting out your data. This is amazing. But first of all, I'm going to name my query. So on the right hand side over here, let's just call it QRY tidy. I'm not having many queries, I'm just tidying my data up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to do something called unpivot. So unpivot means any of the columns like this, where they have their own column, will then become one column in just a list. But I do want to leave some columns the same. I want to leave this column the same, yeah, I tick it, and this column the same, and this column the same. So all the dates are going to be unpivoted, the other three columns are going to be left. So what we do, we need to highlight the first three. I'm going to use my control key, so the first one's already highlighted. Hold down control, click on model, hold down control, click on plant number. So these are the columns I'm keeping the same. Right click on one of the column headings, and I want you to choose unpivot other columns. Just be a bit careful there because you've got three unpivots. So the first one would unpivot what's highlighted. The second one would also unpivot what's highlighted, and I want unpivot other columns. So I want to unpivot what's left. Choose unpivot other columns. And there we go. So what it's done, it's got rid of all the blanks, which is really good. And all the information where there was data in, all the columns where there was data in, it's just listed. So that's kind of done all the hard work for me. All I need to do is name the headings. So I'm going to name this one, I'm going to name this one. So let's just double click on attribute, we're going to call that one date, and we're going to double click on the value column and call that one issue. Okay, and then when you're happy with that, I'm also going to sort, as while I'm here I can do this, you can do this in Power Query, I'm going to sort it by date order. So there's a little drop down there, I'll click on that drop and I can choose sort ascending, so that will sort it. Let's go sort descending, let's do the most recent one first. Okay, that's good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close and load that data, so the close and load button is over here in the top left. Okay, close and load. So it's looking a bit like what I want it to look like. I'm actually going to add in a couple of extra columns, and I'm also going to unlink this because at the moment it's linked to that core table. I don't want it to be linked to that core table, so we're going to unlink it. So we're going to right click on the table. This is hidden away. Go to the table menu and unlink from data source. So there we go, I had to hunt for that because I couldn't remember where it was. So unlink from data source. So that means if the original data, choose OK, which is in the other sheet, here, that was changed, it won't update in here. For these purposes, I don't want it because we're not going to use that anymore. That is in the past. Okay, so let's add some more columns. So in F1, we're going to call it date fixed. Actually, before that, let's put in fixed. So this is going to be a yes or no column. I'll populate it just so you can see. So let's say that one was fixed, that one hasn't been, that one has been, and that one has been. Okay, and then I'm also going to put in a date fixed column, and that will just enable me to see when it was fixed. So say this one was fixed on the 10th of Jan. Okay, that one hasn't been fixed yet. This one was fixed on the 30th of January, and this one was fixed on 1st of February. Okay, so the whole filtering thing begins to build up a pattern. Now, I'm going to get rid of, right, let's talk about the Xlookup. So let's go back and get the original data list. I'm going to copy this over. Just, I don't have to copy it over, it just makes it easy for you to see what I'm doing if I copy it over. Okay, so we're going to call that, let's call that type model and plant number. I'm going to make that data a table, Control T, and there we go. It is. So I'm going to delete this information here because we're going to do an Xlookup, because when people are filling this information in, I actually want them to be able to bring in the information themselves. I don't want them to have to type it in. I might also do a little bit of moving around of the table. So let's insert, let's rejig these a bit. So that's going to be in the first column. And I could have done this in Power Query as well. But as it's only short, I'm going to do it in here. So parent type and model. Okay, so the plant number, which they're used to dealing with, always comes first. So I want them to be able to type in the plant number, and I want it to bring back the type of equipment it is and the model number. So we're going to use Xlookup. We could have used VLOOKUP, but the reason a VLOOKUP wouldn't work is because in the table, if we look at this column, the actual plant number, the bit that we're matching, so here is the cell, and that is matching to this column. Now for a VLOOKUP to work, I would have to move that column to the beginning, because for VLOOKUPs, what you're looking at must always be in the first column. Xlookup, we don't have that problem, so I can leave it where it is. And also this blue table here I'm going to name. So we're going to go to the blue table, go to table design, and I'm going to call it TBL plant. Okay, so let's give this a go. So we're going to start with in B2, and we're going to type in equals Xlookup. So if you've got 365 onwards, you should have Xlookup. If you've got an older version of Excel, you might not have it. It is one of the newer functions. So we're going to click on A2. It's going to pick up that cell, comma, and then I'm going to go over to the little blue table. I'm going to highlight where that information is found. So it's found in column L. Just be careful you don't pick up the whole of column L. I just want to come down and just pick up, if you hover your mouse just in the heading, it should just pick up everything in that column. You have to play around with that a bit. Okay, comma. Okay, and then I want to bring back the type. So now I'm going to go to the type column. Again, I'm not going to highlight the whole of the type column because I don't want all those empty rows, but I do want just the column within the table. Comma. And there is an option, so with an Xlookup there's an option for arguments. So I can put if not found. I'm actually going to put that in quotes. I'm going to put check plant number. So if they put in the wrong plant number, it will give them that error message. Right, comma. And Xlookup actually defaults to exact match, but I am going to just put that in just so anyone else using it would know. So basically it will look for the exact number in the table. Press enter, and because it's a table it will fill in the whole of the column. So in the green table you can see the whole of column B has been filled in. Let's try it with the model name now, the model number. So we're going to click in C2 equals Xlookup. Click on the plant number, comma, click on highlight column, the plant number column. Remember, not the whole column, just the column in the table. Comma, highlight the model column, not the whole column. Comma, I'm going to put the same error message. Quotes, the ones on the quotes you need are the ones on the number 2, shift and 2. Don't use 2 apostrophes. And we're going to put check plant number. Okay, comma, and run an exact match again, close brackets. Enter. Okay, so let's test it out. So we need to log a piece of equipment. So I'm going to say part 31. It's automatically filled in the type, automatically filled in the model number. I'm going to put in today's date. I'm going to put the issue. Now you could do like a data validation for issues and for possibly the fixed as well. But we'll talk about that in another session. But let's call this one broken. There we go. No, it's not been fixed yet. And there we go. So I could just add them in. Right. So we're starting to look quite good. But also I want people to be able to do things like filter it. And to do that, I'm going to insert 2 rows. So coming over to the left of the screen, highlight rows 1 and 2 and right click and choose insert. And then I want you to make row 1 wider. And what we're going to do, we're going to put a slicer in. Now a slicer allows you to filter. So we're going to click on our green table and we're going to go to table design at the top. And you can only do this with, you can do it with pivot tables, but you can also do it with tables. So your data must be a table for this to be there. So we go into the table design, or might say table tools menu, and we choose insert slicer like that. Okay. It says what column do you want to slice? So I want to slice by fixed. And I might slice by plant number as well. Choose OK. So what it will do, it'll give me 2 slicers, and you can see here they are. So I can choose how many columns I want. So if we look up here, so the toolbar's changed, a couple of things. The toolbar's changed to slicer, and I can tailor it. So I can choose a colour, and I can choose how many columns. So we're going to do both of those. So we're going to choose a different colour. Let's choose, I like the dark ones. There we go. And I'm going to make columns 2. That means it's going to display the slicer in 2 columns. Okay. And I might just have to make column 1 a little bit wider. Row 1, sorry. There we go. So that column now, let me explain. I'll move the other slicer out of the way while we look at this one. And if I click on no, it will just show the ones that haven't been fixed. If I click on yes, it shows everything. And in the slicer, if I click on the funnel, it clears it. Okay. So let's try plant number now. So I'm going to drag it over there. I'm going to make it, let's say 5 columns. And then I'm just going to drag the box. That's it. Okay. If you have more than, obviously, let's say I had lots of bits of equipment, you'd get a little scroll bar here so they could scroll through them. So I'll add a few more in a minute just to show you. Okay, so let's put that there. Okay, and then I'm going to freeze that row. So highlight row 1, go to View, and go to Freeze Panes, freeze top row. Okay, so what should happen now is when I scroll up, the slicers will stay in place. So it makes it a little bit easier. So now, okay, so let's say I'm going to put in item 29 again, because maybe it's gone wrong. Okay, and let's put motor issue. It's not been fixed. Okay, so now I could say, I want to see part 29, so I get to see the history of its problems, or if I want to clear that, I just go to the funnel. Yes. So we're starting to get a little bit interactive. Now I'll go over to the table on the right. I can add in, let's say I have another piece of equipment. So let's say I have a, what shall we use? Let's say I had a flat trailer, so I'm just going to add that in, flat. Obviously you'd have more information, trailer, and I'm going to add in the model number, and that's going to be part, let's plant number, let's make that 37. Okay, so now what I can do, I can click on this, I can add in 37, or my Xlookup will do the work, sorry, Xlookup will do the work. I can add in the date, I can add in the problem, and I can add in whether it's fixed or not. One thing that's not shown up very well, if I hover over the slicer, there is now a scroll bar there, so you can kind of choose between the different ones. Possibly also, I'm going to go back to the slicer. So I'm going to click on my slicer, I'm going to go back to slicer, I'm going to give me more columns there, because sometimes, especially with short ones, you can kind of have quite a few, so that way, as I add extra ones in, it will come in. So if I added in a van, so V150, that's 38, and you'll see that come up, she says. When I add it to here, it will come up. So there we go. Okay, so now we have something that we can quite easily see which bits have been fixed. We can clear that. We can quite easily see problems with particular plants by using that plant, and I can clear that. I have got these ticks on here, which means I can select more than one plant. They work like on-off switches then, so I can switch just like every other one off. That's another way of doing it if you click on the tick boxes. But it just makes it easier for people to use rather than fiddling around. So that is how we turn something like that, something like this, which is really unruly, into something like this, which is much easier to work with, much more user friendly. And if you have a table, have a look into using slicers, because they're really good. Have a play around with some of these features. Maybe you've got other ideas how we could have solved that. I'd love to hear from them. Or if you want to see a video on something else, let me know.